I'm a life and relationship coach and a therapist, and I want to talk to you today as a follow on from the video I did previously earlier this week, and that was on the 6 causes of anxiety. And if you haven't watched that already, I'll leave a link below. You might want to go back and watch that first. Today I want to talk to you about, okay, so you've discovered what the reason for your anxiety is. Now what do you do about it? How do you actually manage or heal your anxiety? So my video today is aimed at those people who have generalized anxiety disorder, social anxiety, and panic attacks. If you have anxiety as a symptom of a more complex mental health disorder, obviously that's going to be more difficult to address, but many of the strategies that I offer in this video will be helpful to all of you, no matter what the cause of your anxiety. There is always something you can do to make yourself feel better. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. You'll really be helping me out, and share this video with any of your friends, family, or colleagues that you think it might be helpful for. The first thing I want to say to all of you who are watching out there and who have anxiety is this, that I have the utmost compassion for what you're going through. And so I'm going to preface what I'm about to say by telling you that I am not without feeling. I've worked with lots and lots of clients over the years that have anxiety. I have members of my own family that suffer with anxiety, and I get anxiety from time to time. I don't call it anxiety, okay? And that's one of the things we're going to talk about later on in the video. But, you know, words are important, and the way we talk to ourselves is important, and we'll discuss that in further detail. So while I'm really compassionate about everything that you're going through, and you may be on medication, and hopefully that is doing something to help your feelings of anxiety. I guess if you're watching this video, your anxiety medication's not working, and you're looking for other options. And what I want to say to you is there are other options out there. You know, earlier this week when I posted something on my Facebook page to see just how many of my Facebook friends were dealing with anxiety, I was really shocked to hear that some of the people on there said that it was incurable, basically, that they had anxiety and there was nothing they could do about it. And I want you to know that I do not agree with that. I mean, I guess I have a positive perspective on life, and I'd say that there are very few conditions, mental conditions, physical conditions, conditions of dis-ease that can't be managed better, partially healed, or healed completely. I mean, if you are born with one arm, you're not going to grow another arm. But apart from that, from what I can see, there is possibility and potential and hope all the way along for every mental or physical condition that can possibly happen to us. So I think it's important to start off with a positive perspective, knowing that you are not a victim to your feelings of anxiety. There is a lot that you can do about it. I've been coaching for years and working with people that have anxiety, and I've seen people make enormous changes in their life by using some of the things that I'm going to talk to you about in this video. So the worst thing you can do for yourself is see yourself as a victim of anxiety and a victim with no hope. Just because you haven't found the solution to your problem yet doesn't mean that the solution isn't out there somewhere. So don't give up on yourself. Keep trying. Try the things that I'm going to talk about today. And I'd love to hear from you. Please come back and leave me a comment if any of them worked or didn't work for that matter, because I'd really like to hear from you. So my first tip when it comes to dealing with anxiety is take responsibility for it. Okay? It's not something that is happening from outside of you to you. Believe it or not, you are contributing to it. I have not met one person yet that wasn't contributing in some way to their own anxiety or failing to do some of the things that they could do to manage their anxiety better. Okay? So step one is taking responsibility for your anxiety. You know, it's quite a long time now since I realized in life, and it was a big life-changing moment for me when I did, when I realized in life that I could roll around in a pity pit at the bottom of the pond, thrashing and screaming as much as I liked. The truth of the matter was, no one was going to come and pick me up out of that pity pit and fix me. My only option was to fix myself, to get up out of that pity pit, to take responsibility for what was going on in my life and what I was feeling, and take responsibility for the fact that, you know, I had made many choices along my path that got me to where I was at that moment in time. So I'm really all for putting our big girl pants on, taking responsibility for ourselves, getting up and doing something about making yourself feel better. So my message to you is to inspire you, motivate you to take a long, hard look at yourself, to take a long, hard look at what you're doing. And, you know, one of the things about therapy or working with a coach is always that it requires loving but radical self-assessment. You have to be prepared to be honest with yourself. You have to be prepared to stop hiding, to stop lying to yourself. We all do that. I've done that too. I was probably an expert at lying to myself at one point. So radical honesty is the way forward. Radical honesty and looking for the truth. And that's what a good therapist or coach will help you do, will help you stop lying to yourself and find the truth and help inspire or motivate you, I guess. So taking responsibility is step one. Step two is being very careful with the words that you use. Now, I come from the perspective that I'm a clinical hypnotherapist. So I spent years learning all about how our minds work and about the unconscious or subconscious mind and how we program that part of our minds. They say that our unconscious mind is 90% of our mind and our conscious mind or ego mind is only 10%. So if you're suffering, it's not what you're doing with your conscious mind. It's what's happening inside your unconscious mind that is contributing to or causing the problem. The solutions are also to be found in your unconscious mind, okay? Because it's really, really powerful, and I fully believe that. You know, look back in your life and look for moments or remember moments where something changed for you in the blink of an eye. In one day, from one event, you changed. You changed your choices. You changed a decision. You changed your perspective. You changed a belief, right? We can do that in the blink of an eye when all the circumstances are right. And I believe that the words that we use to talk to ourselves are really important. Not just the words we use to talk to ourselves, but the words we use when we're speaking to other people. I believe words are swords. You know, that word spelling, at the root of that word spelling is the word spell. So every time we speak a word, we are, in essence, casting a spell. That makes us witches, doesn't it? I quite like the idea of that. I don't mind somebody calling me a witch. So if words are spells, and you're going around talking to people all the time and saying, I have anxiety, I'm anxious, I'm really anxious, then what you're doing, unknowingly of course, but what you're doing is you're programming your unconscious mind, because your unconscious mind is a part of you that doesn't judge. It just does exactly what you tell it to, right? So every time you say to your unconscious mind, I have anxiety, your unconscious mind goes, okay, no shit, Sherlock. You know, like a magic genie. I'm your genie. You have anxiety. Right, you have created anxiety in yourself. Now, I know you might find that a simplification, and it is, okay? Some good things in life are just really simple. I think as human beings, we try to complicate things a lot. But I know over the many, many, many people that I've worked with that this works. Stop saying to yourself that you have anxiety or that you are anxious, okay? Because there's a really important component of this. It's kind of a philosophical perspective of anxiety that I think that you've got to look at, and it's this. Anxiety is a word that we use to describe a feeling that you're having or an emotion that you're having inside of you. how do you know that when I use the word anxiety and you use the word anxiety, we're talking about the same thing? Our feelings are purely subjective, right? Nobody can really tell whether you're feeling anxiety. Now, personally, I never ever considered that I was an anxious person until my daughter suddenly said to me, just recently, maybe it was just this year, she said to me, "Oh, Mum, you do get anxious." And I was like, "Do I?" And she pointed out a few things, like, whenever I've got to go somewhere new that I haven't been before, I get anxious. If I have to go and meet people out socially and I'm single and I have to take myself there and it's night time and I've got to find a park and I've got to get myself to the pub and I've got to walk in there looking for my friends, I get anxious, right? But I don't call it that. I call it nerves. I say I get nervous. Now, what's the difference between being nervous and anxious? Right? It's semantics. We're just talking about words. But the problem is when you say I get nervous, right, it doesn't have quite the same effect as when you say to yourself, I get anxious, right? It's like there's this belief in our culture that anxiety is a mental disorder and it's got nothing to do with you, like you're a victim of anxiety and it has nothing to do with you and you need medication to fix it. That's a perspective that has been given to us by Western medical science and drug companies who want you to have to take their medication every day for the rest of your life. Now, like I said before, if you found a medication that works for you, whoa, congratulations. If you found a medication that works for you that doesn't have any bad side effects, even more brilliant. Go ahead, keep taking it. But most of the people that I talk to that tell me that they're anxious and they have anxiety have found that medication doesn't work for them. And so they're still left with their anxiety. So the first thing I always do with clients is say, right, stop using the word anxiety. By all means say, I feel nervous that I have to do this, or I feel nervous I've got to go out socially, or I'm nervous about going to that job interview tomorrow. I'm nervous about starting that new job. I'm nervous about meeting these new people. I'm nervous about traveling somewhere and having to find a park where I don't know where I'm going. It's normal to be nervous when you haven't done something before. It's normal to be nervous when you haven't done something before. We all, well, no, not all. That was a lie. Most of us suffer from nervousness when we're doing something we haven't done before. Nobody likes going on a date, on an online date meeting, coffee date, meeting up with someone. No one likes going for a job interview. No one likes being judged. We all get nervous, right, when that happens. So being nervous is normal. By all means, use that word. Try to not use the word anxiety. Now, the other thing is that what is anxiety? What are we talking about here when we use that word anxiety? You're talking about fear, right? Now, if you were to go around saying to yourself or to others, I'm frightened, I'm frightened, I'm fearful, I'm frightened, right? That would have a completely different effect on your life than trotting out that word anxiety, which is pretty well accepted now. It's accepted that we go and tell everybody that we're anxious, but you probably wouldn't go and tell somebody you're frightened, but it's the truth. That's what anxiety means. It means you're frightened. So I urge you, don't take my word for it. Just try out these things that I'm offering you. If they don't work for you, that's unfortunate. But at least give them a go. So I challenge you, right, for the next 6 weeks to never use the word anxiety when you are talking to yourself or someone else, to use the words nervous and frightened and see what a change that makes to how you see yourself in the world. Just give it a try. What have you got to lose, right? Oh, that's right, your anxiety. My third tip is you have to learn to control your mind. Now, I have lots of people who come to me and tell me that they're worrywarts, they're worriers. And as I said in my video about the causes of anxiety, we've learnt, right, to be anxious. Some people have learned anxiety because they had a parent that was anxious or fearful from when they were a very small child. And that parent's anxiety or fearfulness programmed their unconscious mind to be anxious and fearful as well. And it's also this thing that we have in some sections of our society where mothers think that they are not being good mothers and not being caring enough for their children unless they're worrying about them. So they're always projecting worry at their children. You're not safe. The world's not safe. You're not going to be safe. I'm worried about you. You know, it's that kind of mothering, which I totally disagree with. I think a mother's job is to project positivity and potential and motivation and inspiration at their children. Project the light at them, not the darkness, okay? But if you've had a parent that was like that was very anxious and fearful, and you learnt how to be anxious from having that modeled at you, I mean, modeling is the most powerful form of learning, right? And so our parents are modeling how to be human beings to us the whole way through our childhood. So if you learn to be anxious, the good news is you can unlearn it. You can learn not to be anxious. In order to learn not to be anxious, you've got to get in control of your mind. Now, I see the mind as this really powerful part of our beingness, right? Our consciousness and our mind are the most important things that we use, the most important tools that we have to create a wonderful, happy life for ourselves, or a really fearful, frightening, anxious, boring, horrible life for ourselves. We do that with our minds. So my big thing has always been teaching people how to control their minds. And the reason that I started doing that was because I had to learn how to do that after going through a really bad period in my life. I went through a terrible, terrible, terrible time, and I was very, very depressed for at least a year, maybe more. And so I went looking for solutions, and I realized that all of the spiritual gurus through many generations have all been teaching us to control our minds. And even though I'd read lots and lots of spiritual books, I missed that bit. You know, how they say that when the pupil is ready, the teacher comes. So I think that, you know, we can read books and we miss some of the vital aspects of it, or it just never occurred to me. But look, think of it this way. If you have 60,000 thoughts in a day, that's what science apparently says that we have. Let's just take that as a random number. If you have 60,000 thoughts in a day, and 50,000 of your thoughts are about being fearful and nervous and unhappy and miserable and worried about whether you're going to have a panic attack and worried about how other people are seeing you, blah, 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 you know, where does that leave you? Well, that leaves you miserable. That's where that leaves you, and suffering. So I know that the mind is like a muscle. I wouldn't expect that I could run a 10-kilometre marathon tomorrow if I hadn't have been exercising my muscles and practicing by running short distances over a long period of time and getting my body to the place where I could run 10 kilometres. I'm joking. I could never run 10 kilometres. I'm 62 years old. I couldn't run when I was young. I'm certainly not, well, I could run a bit when I was young, but I couldn't run 10 kilometres now. So the mind is like a muscle. So what you've got to start doing is you've got to start exercising your mind. Think of it like a muscle. You do short exercises every day until it gets stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger, and takes you in the direction that you want to go in. If you have an intention or you want to get somewhere, so say the place we want to get is that we want to be worry-free, we want to be anxiety-free, we want to be panic attack-free. If that's what your intention is, then you have to make sure that the thoughts that you allow in your mind, the thoughts that you give attention to in your mind, the thoughts that you pay attention to, the thoughts that you see as your reality, should be taking you in the direction that you want to go, not away from where you want to go. Really, really powerful, really, really simple, but incredibly profound. Most people let thoughts run through their mind as if they had no control over them, in a completely undisciplined way, as if your thoughts were naughty children and you just let them do whatever you want them to. And that is not necessary. It's not like that. Now, we pick up thoughts from all around us. So we pick up thoughts from the pea soup of the collective consciousness in which we are here manifest. We pick up thoughts from the media, from the television, from our families, from our friends, from our culture. We picked up thoughts from our childhood, from our parents, from our school, and it goes on and on and on. The whole of your life experience, you have been immersed in thoughts that were yours or other people's, mostly other people's. And so your job as a sentient being is to decide which thoughts you want to hold true for you and which you don't. So what I want you to understand is that your beliefs, the things that you now believe to be true, started off as thoughts or ideas, and you just took them on and decided to make them beliefs as if they were facts, and then they go in and they program your unconscious, and then you live your life and see your life out of those beliefs or those thoughts. But thoughts are not facts, right? You know that everything is open to interpretation. If 6 people witnessed a car accident, you would get 6 different versions of the story of that car accident, right? That's because we all see the world through the lens of our own perception. And everybody's perception is different because everybody's beliefs are different. Everybody's history is different. Everybody's life experience is different. Our personalities are different, right? We're all unique. But what we all have in common is this incredible sentient consciousness that we all have, right? That we can learn to use for good, not evil. And it's the same with your imagination. When you have a thought, when you tell yourself a story, when you are thinking, most of us are creating images in our mind, using our imagination to create pictures or images, snippets of memory. It's just a function of our mind to create images and sounds and feelings. And so you also can direct your imagination, right, to use for good, not evil. So what you've got to learn to do if you want to be in control of your emotions and stop suffering from anxiety is that you've got to learn to practice using your mind as if it were muscle. I can give you strategies and tools, right, to learn how to be in control of your mind. And if you go to my website, reea.com.au, on the home page you'll see that there's a free course called Healing Your Emotions. Click on that, go to that Healing That Emotions course. You can download a free copy of my book that I wrote called Get Back Your Mojo, 11 Strategies for Anxiety and Depression. And there's a chapter in there on how to control your mind. And I'm telling you, of all the things that I direct people to, like, I'm a life coach, so, I'm always giving people videos and books and material to look at to expand their knowledge. Of all the things that I direct people to, reading that chapter on how to control your mind is the most powerful thing, right? People come back to me after a couple of weeks of practicing controlling their thoughts, and they say, oh my God, that made an enormous amount of difference. I can't believe how differently I feel. Now, sometimes we can be going down a thought path or recycling an old thought or an old story, and we could be 2 or 3 minutes into that story in our mind before we even realize we're doing it. So the trick here is don't beat yourself up when you find yourself thinking in the old way. Just be very gentle with yourself and just say to yourself, stop, and then put your mind on something else. So there's something else that you can put your mind on. Might be positive thoughts, positive affirmations, a new story that you can tell yourself. You might distract yourself by listening to happy music, phoning a friend, absorbing yourself in some kind of work, going for a walk. I mean, there's a million things that you can do to distract yourself from a negative pattern of thought. Millions of things, and you'll find all those suggestions in my book. So please go and read my book, Get Back Your Mojo. It's free on my website. So you get in control of your mind If you are repeating negative things to yourself all the time, and it's amazing how that inner critic, we can be really judgmental because some of us will have absorbed the inner critic of our parents' voice, and it's our parents' voice in our head going, oh, you're stupid, or you're not good enough, or you're silly, or you're selfish, or blah, 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 because that was said to us when we were children, and we just keep repeating it. If you can stop yourself from doing that, right? And sometimes all it takes is to go, stop, stop. Stop your mind, stop the flow of thoughts, and then replace it with positive thoughts. Now, I'm not really big on affirmations. I got into that whole Louise Hay thing, and it's all very good. But I'll tell you what's important about making positive statements to yourself. It's important the way you say it, the tone of voice that you use to say it to yourself in, and how often you do it, right? There is no point in repeating an affirmation that goes, I am powerful, I am strong, I am safe. That's not going to do it, okay? What you've got to do is you've got to assume a powerful body position, right? Because our body is a feedback mechanism to our mind. Our body and mind are all one. Assume a positive, powerful body position. Speak in a firm, powerful voice, right? I am safe. I am safe. I am safe. I have everything I need. I have everything I need. I've always been safe. I'm 62 years old and I'm still here. I'm not dead yet. I'm safe. Nothing bad's ever happened to me that I couldn't conquer. I've never had a challenge I couldn't get over. I'm safe. That's the way you do affirmations, right? And you repeat them over and over again. Now, if you've got 60,000 thoughts in a day going through your mind, it would be nothing to repeat 500 positive affirmations to yourself while you're driving to work in the car, or while you were doing the dishes. Women are great at multitasking. We can do many things at once. You can do the housework and look after your kids and do all sorts of things while repeating positive affirmations to yourself. And the good news is, while you're saying something positive to yourself, you can't be saying something fearful and negative to yourself at the same time. So you are occupying your mind with positive things. And here's the great way it works. You know how you've heard all this stuff about our brains being neuroplastic and we can create new neurons and we can create new pathways? That's exactly the truth. So when you repeat something negative to yourself, like, I have anxiety, I'm anxious, what you're doing is like wearing a well-worn path in your mind. And the more you say it, the deeper that path gets, the tighter the connections get around that negative phrase. When you stop saying it and you start repeating something else like, I am peaceful, I am safe, then you form new pathways, you form new connections. And pretty soon, that becomes the new pattern of thought. If you want to control your emotions, your anxiety, you have to control your mind first. Every thought that you think produces a chemical reaction in your body, and you interpret that chemical reaction as a feeling or emotion. If you may not be aware, because some people aren't, right? If you've been creating lots and lots and lots of fearful thoughts in your mind, you may not be aware that you're doing it. So what I ask you to do is just try observing what it is that you're actually doing with your mind. And then you might notice, well, that's cool. If I can actually observe my thoughts, then who is the me that is observing the thoughts? Because most people identify with their thoughts and their mind as if that were really them. But I've got great news for you. You aren't actually your mind. You're the consciousness or the energy, right, behind the mind. You're the observer. You can observe your mind. And remember, thoughts are not facts. Just because you have a thought doesn't make it real, right? Most of them are bullshit. We lie to ourselves a lot. We use our imagination to create thoughts about things or a story about the future that hasn't even happened yet, and then we make ourselves feel anxious and have a panic attack over something that hasn't happened yet and may not happen. Right? That's the truth of anxiety. Are you doing that? Did you know that you can stop doing that? You can. And that's what I want for you. Look, again, don't take my word for it, right? Go and try it for 6 weeks. It takes 6 weeks to change a pattern or a habit. Go and try what I'm telling you to do for 6 weeks. And if you've legitimately done everything that I've asked you to do, and you are not feeling any better, you're not feeling any relief at all, come back and tell me, leave me a comment. I'd be pleased to hear about it. But you know what? I've never heard anybody come back and tell me that it made no difference whatsoever. Okay? So do it for yourself. Please do it for yourself. Okay, so that's number 3, third tip, controlling your mind, imagination, and emotions. My next tip is a very simple thing, right? When anyone comes to me with anxiety, the very first thing we want to do is we want to regulate their sleep-wake cycle. It's important, if you're someone who identifies with being anxious, that you understand that you have a sensitive nervous system. It's probably more sensitive than a lot of other people's. And I think sensitivity is a gift, personally. I'm sensitive. I think it's a good thing. And you can see it as a gift too once you get in control of your consciousness and your mind, right? But for the time being, what you need to do is regulate your sleep-wake cycle. So you need to be getting to sleep by 10 o'clock every night and waking up at the same time every morning, okay? Regulate your sleep-wake cycle. Regulate your circadian rhythms. Regulate your hormones, all of that stuff that goes on in your body. So step 1 of that is regulate your sleep-wake cycle. The next thing when we're talking about physical things that you can do is exercise. Really, really, really important. I go for a walk every morning in nature, right? Lots of trees and animals around me, and I don't do it for my body. I do it for my mind, right? I'm an empath, I am sensitive, and I want to be in control of how I feel. So in order to keep me feeling good, I know that if I go for a walk every morning, and it doesn't have to be a long walk, it might only be 15 or 20 minutes. What happens after you do 15 or 20 minutes is you usually start walking further. But, you know, really, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, 20 minutes, it's enough. You go for a walk for your mind. If you're suffering from anxiety, you need to go for a walk because you're regulating the right and left hemispheres of your brain, right? What happens when you're anxious is that you go into flight, fight, freeze, or fawn mode, the 4 Fs, usually known as flight, fight mode, right? It's the stress response in the body. You may have a really stressful life and you go into stress. That doesn't mean to say you have to stay in stress. Your job is to regulate your physicality and your emotions and your mind. Are you getting the point? Your job is to regulate your emotions. And one of the ways that you regulate your emotions is through exercise. You've got to regulate your right and left hemisphere. People that have anxiety get triggered by things. It's a really good thing to write down a list of the things that trigger your anxiety and to really have that self-awareness and know what that is. What is it that triggers me into anxiety? And keep a list and keep adding to that list all the time so that you've got a good record of it. And if you get triggered into anxiety, then you're in flight, fight mode, you're in the stress response, your body's producing adrenaline and cortisol. How do you calm yourself down? You've got to have a way to do that, right? And you can. So there's some pretty easy tips about calming yourself down if you've become emotionally dysregulated. One really, 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 really simple thing is to sit in a chair, close your eyes, take a few big deep breaths. You know you're breathing deeply when your tummy pops out at the bottom, so you're breathing all the way down to your belly breaths, just like a baby's breathe. Big deep breath, rub your thighs. When you're rubbing your thighs, what you're doing is putting yourself back in your body. When you're in panic or anxiety mode, you are not in your body, you are in your mind. You've got to get out of your mind and get back in your body, okay? When you go into flight, fight mode, your breathing goes really shallow in the top part of your chest. What you want to do to counteract that is breathe deeply, right? Because we're counteracting that adrenaline and cortisol. Breathe deeply. Relax the physical body, because one of the things that happens when you go into flight, fight mode is your body tenses and all the blood rushes from your front central cortex where it's bathing all of your rational logical thinking and your organs, and it rushes to your arms and legs so that you can run or fight, right? You're going to flight, fight mode. So if you sit down, breathe deeply, rub your thighs, relax your body, close your eyes, and then take yourself to somewhere lovely in your mind, a beach, a park, a rainforest with a beautiful waterfall and some lovely birds and dolphins skipping through the water. Use your imagination to calm yourself, right? There's many, many, many things that you can do in this area. But this is just one tip that you can use, okay, to get yourself calmed down. Now, I would also be wanting to say to myself, while I was sitting there rubbing my thighs, breathing deeply, relaxing my body and visualizing something nice, I would want to say to myself, I am safe. I am safe. Everything is fine. Everything is fine. I'm fine. All the people I love are fine. We're all safe. Because I know life can be stressful, but really, truly, you've managed to get through every stressful circumstance and event in your life to get you where you are now. You're still alive. You're not dead yet. You're still kicking. You're still looking after yourself. You're still looking after the people that you love. Okay? You've been doing it. Just do it a bit better. Just be a bit kinder to yourself by not hanging on to anxiety and thinking there's nothing you can do about it. Hanging on to fear and stress. Okay? So there's some physical things that you can do. Now, tip number 5 is food. Okay, so sometimes diet can affect anxiety, as I said in the causes. So check that out, okay? Make sure that your food is supporting your health, not the other way around. So sugar, not good for anxiety. Way too many carbs, not good for anxiety. At the same time, not enough carbs is bad for anxiety too. So you've got to be able to have your carbohydrate intake regulated so that you're not troppo, eating too much sugar and bouncing off the walls, I guess. And ketogenic diets and really low carb diets can cause a feeling of anxiety too. So make sure that your carbohydrate intake is balanced. And the other thing that you need to be doing is taking supplements, right? This makes an enormous difference to people who have anxiety. Magnesium, the first thing, you need to be taking magnesium every day. You should be taking I think the dietary advice is 300 milligrams of magnesium daily, but you can take more than that. You could take 300 milligrams of magnesium twice a day. And again, try it out for yourself for a period of time. 6 weeks is the minimum. See if it works. See if it works. So magnesium, really important. The other really important one is zinc. We know that zinc and magnesium burn off in people that suffer a lot of stress. So if you are pumping a lot of adrenaline and cortisol through your body, you're going to probably be diminished in magnesium, zinc, and vitamin B, right? So take a mega vitamin B. Take at least 25, 30 milligrams of zinc every day, and take at least between 300 and 600 milligrams of magnesium every day, and do it for 6 weeks, and then reassess and see how you feel. That's a simple thing to do, okay? Number 6 is hypnotherapy. Now, I'm not talking suggestion therapy where the recipient lays there and is passive and the hypnotherapist talks into their unconscious mind. That is not going to work for anxiety. What I'm talking about when I talk about hypnotherapy is regression therapy. So actually putting you in a trance state and regressing you back to an event that was scary or terrifying for you, and working on that event and healing that event. Now, it's something that I've used really extensively with people who have fear of public speaking, fear of heights, fear of flying. I've had people who had fear of driving, who couldn't drive on particular roads, say expressways, and used it very effectively for them. It's also very effective for anyone that's had a really bad experience in their life and they might have like a PTSD response to it. So I've used it extensively with ambulance officers and police officers who've had to be called to really horrible events where they've seen horrible things and they have a kind of PTSD associated with that event. Hypnotherapy is very good for PTSD. It's also very good for complex post-traumatic stress disorder, which you get from childhood trauma. So I've used hypnotherapy extensively with people who have had sexual abuse in their childhood, physical abuse, emotional and mental abuse. So regression hypnotherapy is very effective for taking you back to an event that is a contributing factor to your anxiety and reframing and healing that event. One of the things that we know about anxiety, if you have anxiety around particular places or circumstances, you have particular triggers, one of the things you've got to not do is let the anxiety stop you from doing something, stop you from living your life. I mean, I'm a feel the fear and do it anyway kind of person. If you are actually scared of doing something, we know that one of the things that ameliorates that fear is for you to take baby steps and do it in small doses and then get over it. So you prove to yourself again and again and again that you can actually do the thing that you were scared of doing, and then you're not scared of it anymore. So that works with specific anxieties about particular things. And that's why hypnotherapy works, because in a trance state, you go back to an event that may have caused you a lot of distress, and if it's something in childhood, we would do childhood rescue. So we work supporting that child, giving that child the resources they need, teaching that child whatever it is they need to know in order to deal with the event in a better way. And if it's an adult experience that you've had that is causing you to feel anxiety, same thing. We go back and it's sort of like desensitization to the event, but it's also giving you extra resources and strengths. So you can actually go to an event where you were feeling really confident and good about yourself and connect with those feelings of confidence and strength, and take those feelings of confidence back to an event from your past and anchor those feelings of confidence and strength in that past event. That's, there's lots of things that you can do with hypnotherapy. Just like medication doesn't work for everybody, even operations don't work for everybody. Hypnotherapy doesn't work for everybody either. And it's not something that's done to you. You've got to participate. So you have to be fully up with it. You have to go into it with all the knowledge that you need and feel comfortable with your hypnotherapist. And one session is very rarely enough to actually get an effective result out of hypnotherapy. People think they're going to go for one visit. I don't know why. I don't know where that myth comes from, but it's ridiculous. Well, you can take one tablet and expect to have, your anxiety healed, would you? So sometimes you might have to go for 2 or 3 sessions. You might have to do 6 sessions. It depends on your unique circumstance and what's actually the cause of your anxiety. If it's childhood trauma, then definitely you're probably looking at quite a few visits, because there might be lots of stuff there that you have to go and look at. You don't have to go to all of the terrible things that happen to you, because for some of us who experience childhood trauma, there's probably too many of them to name. You'd be here forever. But your unconscious mind learns by association. So when you go to a couple of the events that cause you to feel fearful or anxious and they're similar, then your unconscious mind can process that and get rid of all of your anxiety. So it's really, really effective with lots of anxiety. Okay, number 7 is EFT, or emotional freedom technique. Now, I have a video on my channel about how to use emotional freedom technique on anxiety, and I'm going to leave a link below and you can go and check that out for specific details. But emotional freedom technique works in the same way that acupuncture works, and instead of sticking needles in your energy meridian points, you tap on them. So there are certain places on your body where your energy meridian points are close to the surface of the skin, and in the same way that you might use acupressure, you use EFT to tap on certain energy meridian points. And as you're working with your unconscious mind, and I always teach EFT to everyone that I see that has anxiety or fear of public speaking or fear of flying or any of those kind of panic attack kind of fears when you come across particular circumstances or events or situations. So EFT is a wonderful self-help therapy. You can learn it in about 5 minutes and you have it with you everywhere you go, because essentially all you're doing is you're repeating affirmations and particular phrases to your unconscious mind as you tap on a sequence of energy meridian points to relieve your symptoms of anxiety. It works very, very, very well. Okay, so that's my number 7. Now there is another one. It's called EMDR, and I think that's EMDR stands for eye movement. Eye movement desensitization repatterning. So it's as you go back to a past trauma or event that may be causing you to feel panicky, what you do is you focus on the event. This one you have to do really with a counsellor or a therapist that's trained in EMDR, and you, by moving your eyes from side to side as you reassociate with the event, what it does is causes, again, the regulation of both hemispheres of your brain, and it helps you to get rid of the negative feelings around that event. So that's another one that you might look into. Number 8 is finding the right person to work with. So there are a variety of people that you could choose to work with, from psychologists to therapists, hypnotherapists, counsellors, coaches. And, you know, it really is not about the qualification or the name that's stuck on the qualification. It really is about your trust in the person that you're working with, their experience and their knowledge. And, you know, you might go to somebody who's highly qualified and they might not do the trick for you, and you go to somebody less qualified, for instance, and they may have the goods. So, you know, it really is about a vibrational energy match between you and your therapist or your coach. I have a lot of people who come to me and they say, well, I've been to, you know, 10 other people and I've still got the problem, and then they work with me and the problem's gone. Now, I'm not saying that I am the right person for everybody to work with, because I am not. I certainly, no therapist could say they get 100% results with all of their clients, because it's not just up to me, it's up to you too. And there's, you know, it's a very complex area. There's all sorts of things that impact on this. So it's a matter of you finding the right person, a person that you feel comfortable with. But I definitely think that if you've had anxiety for a long time and you're still suffering with it, then you really owe it to yourself to go and find the answers, to find the right person for you to work with that can encourage and motivate you. The thing that you don't want to do, that I see people doing, is to just say, well, I've got anxiety and it ruins my life and there's a lot of things that I can't do. That's my life. And just give up. So, you know, I'm all for not giving up. I'm all for keep trying until you get there. You owe it to yourself to do whatever you can to take care of yourself. After all, that's our job, isn't it, as adults, to take care of ourselves. So I hope you've enjoyed those tips and strategies that I've given you. Obviously, some are going to work better with some people than others. It's exactly like finding the right medication to work with you for your anxiety. You've got to find the right treatment, the things that work for you. So try them out, and I'd love to hear how you went.